So I just had a discussion about the morality of abortion with Harley Dalton on Reasonable Vegan Stream. If that's something you'd be interested in watching, I'll put the link in the bio. Now, my immediate reaction well, I guess it's not immediate. I was originally planning this video on recording this video right afterwards, but I ended up realizing that I had an appointment to go to, and then, all other stuff happened, and, well, now I'm doing it a few hours later instead of a few minutes later like it was supposed to be, but whatever. My a few hours afterwards reaction, let's put it, after having that conversation, is that there are a few things I think I could have done better in retrospect. So, first of all, I think I should have pushed harder for concession when it came to the claims of contradictions that Harley was making. I started off the discussion by asking about a claim Harley had made in the YouTube comments section, claiming that it's contradictory to take the view that an embryo or fetus is a human, and also take the view that it's permissible to kill that being. First of all, I should have clarified when I'm asking what the contradiction is, I'm looking specifically for an example of a proposition in its negation, P and not P. So an example of this would be the sky is blue and the sky is not blue. I should have also gotten an explicit concession from Harley that affirming the proposition an embryo is human and it's permissible to kill embryos is not a contradiction. Now, the affirmation of those two propositions and some other third proposition, such as it's wrong to kill humans, that may lead to a contradiction, but that was not Harley's original claim. Now, he later claimed that's what he meant, but it's not what he said. And honestly, I think I even gave him too much leeway on that point, because even the affirmation of those three propositions doesn't necessarily lead to a contradiction, depending on what's meant by the terms. So, when a pro-choicer affirms that it's wrong to kill humans, they may just mean that it's pro tanto wrong. Not that it's absolutely wrong, or that it's always wrong. One could take the view that the wrongness of killing a human is outweighed by bodily autonomy considerations. Now, Harley also made a second false allegation of inconsistency when he accused me of being inconsistent for valuing cognitive complexity, but simultaneously valuing a sentient fetus over a rat, even though, according to him, the rat has a greater cognitive complexity than the fetus. Now, nothing I said in that conversation entails that a rat would be more valuable than a sentient fetus. I never said that I solely care about current cognitive capacity. If you have two rats, but one will retain the cognition of an average rat throughout its entire life, and the other will develop the cognition of a human, the average human, in 5 minutes, I'm not going to value those two beings equally. I would find the latter life to be more valuable. Now, he made a third false statement during the discussion, in which he insisted that taking a view that suffering is intrinsically bad entails that it would be bad to go to the gym, because that causes suffering. And so that's not true at all. One can take the view that suffering is intrinsically bad, but that badness can be overwritten by countervailing considerations. So, for example, if one finds pain intrinsically bad, but pleasure intrinsically good, and going to the gym results in more happiness than it does suffering, one can easily, consistently claim that going to the gym is net positive. I should have pushed for a clear concession from him that these two statements by him were false. I also think I could have done better on the reductio front. I do think I delivered a pretty potent reductio on Harley, in which he bit the bullet on it being okay to torture aliens, near physically and mentally identical to human babies, in order to consume their corpses, even when one could easily eat a plant-based alternative that's just as nutritious instead. Now, Harley claims that they're not actually mentally identical because human infants have a rational nature and the infant aliens don't. But I would just deny that rational nature is even a coherent concept. So I would say that yes, they are in fact mentally identical. Harley claimed that I took some so-called concerning moral positions in the discussion, namely that I would, quote, value certain animals over humans with disabilities, as he put it. Now, the disability that he was referring to was permanent non-sentience as a result of being in a chronic vegetative state. I mean, valuing certain animals over humans with disabilities, that's one way to frame it. The way I would frame it is that I value beings with the mind of an intellectually disabled human over beings with the mind of a rock. If you'd rather save a being mentally equivalent to a rock over a being mentally equivalent to a sentient human with an intellectual disability, I think it's you with a concerning moral position, not me. There's actually another reductio on Harley's view, which unfortunately I only thought of after the discussion. So Harley claimed in his opening statement that he's a hardcore pro-lifer who supports virtually no exceptions. Based on that, I would presume he doesn't support exceptions for rape. And the question I would have for Harley is this. Say a 10-year-old child is raped. They become pregnant as a result of this rape. And we can somehow detect that the embryo they're pregnant with will remain non-sentient throughout its entire life. Would Harley be okay with forcing a 10-year-old rape victim to carry a pregnancy to term, putting this child rape victim through all that emotional and physical trauma in order to save the life of a being with the mind of a carrot? I presume he would. Now, there's actually an even worse potential reductio than this, though I'm less sure if Harley would bite on it. Let's say we have exactly the same case as the previous hypothetical, but instead of the embryo remaining non-sentient throughout its entire life, it remains in a perpetual state of torture-level suffering. Should we force this child rape victim to give birth so we can preserve a life that consists purely of extreme suffering? Slight side comment, by the way. At one point, Harley told me that I'm the same me as the me at conception. So I don't grant this claim. I don't think there was ever a point in which I was a zygote. Or any of these things. I think I only came into existence at the onset of consciousness. Now, one final thing I want to comment on is that towards the end of the conversation, Harley kept asking me why consciousness was valuable, why hedonic states matter. So one thing we didn't really get the chance to discuss was metaethics. I'm a moral anti-realist. I use moral language in an individual subjectivist manner. I take moral statements to simply be an expression of my attitudes. So in my mind, the question is quite bizarre. Why do hedonic states matter? Well, because it matters to me. I care about it. It's like if someone asked me, or it's like if I said that sweet potatoes are tasty, and then someone asks me, well, why are sweet potatoes tasty? Well, because I like the taste of them. That's all it means to say something is tasty. Similarly, all it means to say something is valuable is that I value it. There's nothing further to be said. In regards to that, or this entire video, in fact, that's all I have to say on the matter for now. I'd be happy to have another discussion like this on Reasonable Vegan's channel sometime, whether on abortion or some other topic. And I actually will be doing a solo stream with Reasonable Vegan on Monday about the topic of animal ethics, so feel free to check that out if you're interested.